This is a little example of using some placeholder components to represent parts that are going to be parts or subsystems that are going to be designed as part of an assembly, and looking at how we can use some representative solids, in this case some very simple spherical golf balls, we call them sometimes, to represent a mass and a location. So that we can roll up not just mass, but also roll up inertial properties as well. So in this particular case here, we have this little planning assembly. This again could be really early planning. This could be actually a technique that you could use mid-design. If you have a design change, you know there's some new thing that's coming in, for instance, or some subsystem you haven't designed yet, but you know basically where it's going to go and how much it should weigh, right? Then you can put in one of these balls and use it. All of these components here are actually identical, except for the name and two expressions that are linked in there. And again, as you might guess, there's a mass and there's a location, a point expression that defines the location of each of these balls. And as you can tell, these are out there representing things like each of the tails, left and right tail, left and right wing, and engines, and so forth. And the size of the ball here, of course, represents the size of the mass involved. Again, we're linking in the mass specifically, and then inside that part, if we look at one of these, grab the fuselage there, you'll see that we kind of reverse engineer the size of the sphere based on the mass. So if we look at the expressions for this part here, again, you see the inner part expression coming in as the mass of the fuselage. This is coming from the top level assembly. We'll design, essentially define all of the masses and the positions at the top level assembly, link those into each of these components. And then again, the radius of the golf ball here is getting kind of reverse engineered from the mass and the density. Speaking of the density here, we've got a relatively high density defined for these on purpose, and we'll see why here. So if we're looking at this assembly here, for instance, and we're designing an aircraft in this case, generally speaking, we're going to have relatively lightweight stuff going on in the aircraft, right? And so, for instance, in this one here, if we look at a visual report of this particular one and look at the body materials here, you'll notice that each of these spheres is right now designed out of tungsten, right? And that's on purpose. So we can go back later in our design, for instance, run this kind of visual report, and if we see tungsten lurking around inside an aircraft, that's usually a really good indication that it shouldn't be there. So this is one technique for inserting that in there in a way that's easily discoverable later, so we can go back and find it and replace it with the real deal as we design the components that are supposed to go in there. So for each of these guys now, again, as I mentioned at the top level assembly here now, if we look at the expressions in this part, again, there's a mass in there for each of these components at the top, and subsystems here at the top. These are locked right now because we're actually driving this with a parameter table, and we'll see how that works here in just a minute. There also are locations, X, Y, and Z locations out here for each of those major subsystems. Again, these are right now individual expressions, and we'll see why. Again, we're driving them with a table here in just a minute, and you'll see that. And then we actually convert each of those into a point expression here by compiling the X, Y's, and Z's for each of those locations. And the masses up above and these points are the things that actually get linked out to the components out there. Okay. So with that, let's look at the parameter table for this assembly. Lives and tools right here, and if we look at this parameter table, you'll notice that we've got 4 different configurations in this model right now. This is driven by a file. In this case, we don't have the table right inside the part in this case on purpose. We've got it living out here in an Excel spreadsheet that's out on disk. If we go look at that spreadsheet, it looks like this, and this is the standard format for a parameter table, where the expression that we're referencing, those are the ones we were just looking at, are in this column here. We can have a parameter label associated with these two that may be more descriptive. In this case, they're the same because the expressions are pretty descriptive, right? This could be a completely different label if you wanted it to be. If your expressions were less descriptive, if these were p-values or something like that, then the parameter label can help identify what they are without needing to change all the expression names. And then each of these columns, again, is one of these configurations. And these have a name. That's just the name of the configuration. out there, and then we're setting, let's see, we've got a row of labels and then down to 45. So we've got 44 expressions here, right, that will all get set. And as we change the configuration, choose one of these configurations, it'll go set those 44 expressions and update the model. Choose a different configuration, again, it'll set those 44 expressions and update the model, and so forth. And some of these, the green ones up top here, are the masses of some of these guys. Actually, these are of the fuselage and the gear and the vertical stabilizer. These are unique out there. There's just one fuselage, right? And then down below here you see some pairs of blues and grays. The colors are all just me putting colors on them. You don't need these functionally, but the blues are the inputs here. These are actual numbers. The grays here are actually mirrored ones. These are negatives for the engine to go on the other side of the aircraft, right? And similarly with the tails. So the blues are the inputs. The grays are kind of following along with those. And then down at the bottom you see some ones and zeros. These are suppression by expressions that they're going to turn on or off the particular kind of lightweight model that sits around the outside of this out there, kind of an outline model in this case. So in the King Air configuration here, that turns on the King Air and turns off these other three, right, in this particular scheme. So with that, this doesn't need to be open. This can be closed. It kind of stores a shadow copy of this, or caches this inside the part file there. If we want to go and update from that file, we can do that here. But at any rate, we've got these in here. One little caution as you start working with this, you'll notice here that as I double-click one of these other configurations, the green one here, of course, is the active one. If I go grab the 717 here, you'll notice the balls don't move yet, right? And the reason for that is that these are all minimally loaded right now. They don't have the expressions are not loaded at this point. So I'm going to go grab all of those guys, and they need to be at least partially loaded to have the expression segment loaded into the session. So with those in place, we can go to the parameter table here again, and now if we switch that configuration, you'll see that all of those balls now move as well, move to their new positions as defined in that in the table. And similarly, if we go to these others, we'll swap in the new one. You see the balls move around to follow, right? So we could have these balls in different places based on, particularly during an aircraft design, it may be something more like the gear are stowed or deployed, or flaps are in position, or things like that, takeoff or landing position, and so forth. Different reasons they may be moving around for one design, a specific design. I used that in this case just to illustrate the flexibility of this technique and the ability to apply that easily to different kinds of configurations like this. Okay, so hopefully that's useful. These are in 3D, by the way. So yeah, the X, Y, and Z here. This particular outline didn't have any gear in it, so the balls are kind of representative of where the gear may be on this particular one. Some of these others have a little more outline there, so yeah, there's some structure here that is represented there by the ball and so forth. But at any rate, yeah, we've got X, Y, and Z for those. And again, this is creating masses for each of these, right? And as we do this, and we turn on the mass properties analysis here, there we go. We can update that, and that's rolling up those components in the assembly. And you can see we've got not just masses for these, but really full mass properties as well. So we've got moments of inertia and things like that. We can roll up. This is actually for the top level assembly. We've got already all of the inertial properties rolled up at this point for this assembly. So again, if we go over to our parameter table, switch that to the really big 757 here. It's the biggest one. There we go. And again, come into our assembly. We've changed all of the masses at this point, right? All of the spheres out there all have a new mass. On purpose, this mass update is not completely automatic because that can get a little ugly for big assemblies. So we want to have that be a user-initiated thing. And as we do that, we'll see that update. Right now, you see the mass, center of mass for this assembly doesn't know where it should be, but as we update that, again, you see that CG drive-in right there. In the wings, right over the wings where it should be. So with a bigger mass now, 75,000 kilograms on the 757. So hopefully that's useful, and enjoy.